Welcome to 100 Proof Radio with Jay Wesley, your weekly journey into examining your spirit choices and social etiquette in different settings. Do you know the written and unspoken rules about ordering and consuming alcohol during a night out on the town with your friends, at office holiday parties, or when hosting at home? Well, pour your favorite drink and get ready for an unfiltered, enlightening, and comfortable ride. Sip back and relax. And welcome to 100 Proof Radio with Jay Wesley.
Tonight is cocktails and attorneys. We're talking about, do attorneys sip with their clients? Do they control and manage their alcohol? Lawyers play a very important role in our society and individual lives. As liaisons between citizens and those who hold power can change lives in addition to laws. The profession is respected. Attorneys find themselves wedged in the midst of other people's issues on a daily basis, which is a tremendous amount of pressure. As a result of this stress, are lawyers more prone to alcohol use and abuse? According to a study conducted by the American Bar Association, 1 in 3 practicing lawyers are problem drinkers, where 28% suffer from depression and 19% show symptoms of anxiety. So I want to take a round and introduce you to the guest on the show tonight, starting with my co-host, Mitchell Shelby. How are you, man?
We're doing absolutely fantastic. How are you doing today, Jay?
Excellent. Thank you for being here. So Mitchell is going to be having his own show here.
Sucker Free.
Sucker Free.
Sucker Free.
Starting September 4th. Rolling Out Live is a live streaming platform for influencers such as Mitchell. So tell them a little bit about Sucker Free.
Man, Sucker Free it's going to be an unbelievable show, and it's co-hosted with myself, and the prime talent on the show is Rashad Ritchie, and the beauty comes in Nicole English. And Nicole, the show is about local politics, national politics, and brother, we bring pop culture into it with a total different twist.
All right,
That's what
there
Sucker
it is.
Free is about.
So speaking of shows, I have been on air as of August 15th, 1 year. So we're going to do a champagne toast. Everybody can raise a glass up. So we're going to do a toast. Congrats to 100 Proof.
Congratulations, brother.
50 shows.
Oh, that's when we're supposed to drink now, right?
Yeah. When you toast, you always got to look in the person in the eye, and you do the toast.
Let's try one more time.
All right, there it is.
Okay, good deal.
All right. So tonight is yummy flavored ginger yums, and we're going to be introducing Angela later, but she made this great mimosa for us, so thank you. But let me get back to the rest of the guests that are here that I want to introduce, and we have one on the phone line that I'll be introducing shortly. But here to my left is Attorney Gerald Griggs. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 14 years. I practice primarily criminal defense, some civil rights litigation, and some personal injury, based in DeKalb County, Decatur, and a native Atlantan.
All right, excellent. So thank you for being here once again. And next to Attorney Griggs is Attorney Gia Compton. How are you, Gia?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here.
It's good to see you again. We were just together yesterday.
Yes, we were.
Yes, so I was so influenced by you. So thank you for telling me so much knowledge and wisdom. So tell the people a little bit about yourself.
I'm a native Atlantan also. I went to Emory University for law school. Graduated in 1985, so been practicing for 33 years. Started out doing indigent defense, and just in the course of my career, I've done a lot of things. But I've moved to the production side of film and TV, and although I still have clients that are on the other side of it, I've started to get interested in the other side of the camera.
Interesting. And one of your clients actually makes lemonade. Is that correct?
Yes, they do. Brown Boys Lemonade, the best lemonade on the planet.
All right. So you're gonna have to tell us a little bit more about that during the show. But next to Gia, we have Attorney Mitchell Albert.
Hey, good evening, Jay. Thanks a lot for having me on the show. Really looking forward to sharing some views and interacting with the attorneys. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Served in the United States Marine Corps, and that was a great privilege. Been practicing law here going on 10 years in Atlanta. My areas of practice are criminal defense, personal injury, and malicious prosecution. So the opportunity to come on the show and talk about justice and how attorneys interact with the community is a great privilege, and I look forward to sharing some ideas with you.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for being part of the show. I may need all of you all's help, at the end of the show. Just go home and watch WSB tonight. Y'all will see me on there, and you'll be like, okay, I can't believe this story. So, yeah, I may be calling you all in the morning. But right now, it is time for our sip break where we introduce our sponsor, Ginger Yums, with Angela. How are you, Angela?
So good. I'm happy to be here.
All right, excellent. So, what are you making for us today?
So I am going to make a twist on the Ginger Yums.
Somebody's going to need to hold the mic for her
I
so
got
she
you.
can make it.
Yeah, so I have the Ginger Yums Original that I'm going to mix with the Tito's Vodka. I know that's your favorite.
Yes.
And a little bit of ginger beer. So the main ingredient being the Ginger Yums Original, which is a natural ginger juice that we make. We make here in Atlanta and we sell. So it really can up. We call it ups when you add the liquor to it. So I'm going to mix that up for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy. Once again, many people like the Moscow Mule these days. So,
Right.
we'll see. Tell me what you think. Okay. So I am going to take 4 ounces of the Ginger Yums Original. Once again, it's made right from the natural ginger root. We blended with a lot of love and care, but you're getting all the natural benefits of ginger. So it's funny when I mix it with cocktails now that I think about it, because it actually helps with hangovers. So I guess it kind of will make it null and void in a sense.
Now, Angela, people will be able to make this for themselves, right?
Yes,
Okay.
you buy the Ginger Yums Original, and you can buy the
We
Tito's.
get
and-
that Ginger Yums Original from where?
You can get it online. We are at many festivals around the Atlanta area.
Okay, good deal.
So yeah, call us up, email us. We do deliver to Buckhead and Midtown.
Okay, then.
And Buckhead
Gotta
and
get you
downtown.
coming to Southwest Atlanta, okay?
Oh, absolutely. We do many of our festivals in Southwest Atlanta.
Okay, good deal.
Absolutely. So that was 4 ounces of Ginger Yum Original with 2 ounces of Tito's. You can up it more if you like, depending on your own taste. And then we're going to put 2 ounces of the ginger beer. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So once again, that's going to give it a little kick as well. But that natural ginger is going to give it a bite as well. If you like ginger with a bite, Ginger Yums will give you that. It'll start out smooth, and then it'll kick you in the back of the.
And
Thank
so
you.
let's talk about the mimosa real quickly as you continue to make that. There was a little spice here. Is that
That's
ginger?
the ginger yum. So
Okay.
you get the original, and then you can up it and mix it with various things. So
Okay.
you had the ginger yum original with orange juice, and then prosecco. That's good for brunches and things like that. I say this is good for after work, getting ready for a big case perhaps. Chill those nerves a little bit. So yeah, that's all. Ginger Yums Original. Then you have the Tito's or the vodka of your liking.
Okay.
And then you have a little bit of the ginger beer. And then you have your Moscow Mule. So I do have one for you to try.
All right.
So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Once again, you're going to get the benefits of the ginger because it is natural ginger root that's placed in there. And then you're going to get the deliciousness of a nice cocktail.
Absolutely. So the producers are going to pass the drinks down so
Yes.
that
Oh,
we
I got
can experience them.
And once again, so our website is www.gingeryums.com. So you go online. We have Ginger Yums Original, Ginger Yums Pineapple, and then we have a Ginger Yums Sorrel. So sorrel is absolutely delicious. I'm going to bring it home with the sorrel with the last break. So.
All right. And so how did this company come about?
So I wasn't feeling well one day, actually. My stomach was hurting, and I'm always quick to go grab ibuprofen or something like that. And my partner said, let me make you a ginger juice. And I was like, ginger juice? And so he went in the kitchen and made this ginger juice, and it was delicious. And I'm
This
super
is
picky.
delicious.
Thank you.
I'm not a drinker. Can I say that?
How
Jay?
you know it's delicious? You're not even drinking tonight.
He
no,
is. He has the original.
I
Mhm.
have the original.
without
Okay.
without the prosecco.
Without-
Mhm.
Okay.
But it is delicious,
Thank
man.
you,
Wow.
thank you. So it made me feel better, first of all, and it was super good. So from there, he was making it, and he was taking it to work, and people were asking about it, and I said, well, we can make this a business, and 4 weeks later, here we are on the radio. So
Oh wow, you've been in business 4 weeks.
yes, sir, yes,
Oh,
sir.
wow.
Business like everything's in place, and we are a full-fledged business as of this moment.
So tell us your thoughts. You have any thoughts as you hear this topic on cocktails and attorneys? How do you mix clients cases, and cocktails. Hashtag law under the influence.
That's so funny. So I'm a banker by trade, and so it's very similar to attorneys. I work with bond counsel every single day, and so it's. I think it's really just pacing yourself and knowing your limits. Just like any girl going out on a Saturday night, you just kind of know, what those limits are, because you can easily get caught up. I go to a steak dinner every other night, and not only will you get, too much beef in your body, but you can get too much liquor in your body too.
Have you ever seen an attorney tipsy?
Yeah. Oh my God. I've seen attorney, banker, I've seen business owner. Absolutely. And so, that's when you just hope that, the people you're around can kind of, bring you to the side a little bit.
Okay, excellent. So thank you for being
Absolutely
part of the show. And we look forward to you coming back. What are you coming back with?
Oh, I'm coming back with my favorite, which is the pineapple ginger martini. I'm a martini girl, and I hope you guys like the martini.
All right, excellent. So let us dive into this conversation. But before we do, we still have one more guest to introduce, and we're going to be calling him on the phone line. This is my personal attorney, Attorney Warren Sams, and we're gonna give him a call. As our producers are putting this together, if you're tuning in for the very first time, this show is all about, do attorneys drink with their clients? All right, so we're gonna wait for Attorney Sams. We got him ringing.
Hello, this is Warren.
Mr. Attorney Warren Sams, how are you, sir? This is Jay Wesley with 100 Proof.
Hi, Jay Wesley. Thanks for calling. I appreciate you having me as a guest on your show tonight.
No, the pleasure is all mine. So, you had some strict time constraints. So where are you coming from that we had to, wait a few minutes to give you a call?
Well, as a matter of fact, I am actually driving or about to drive back from an AA meeting. I celebrated 9 years of sobriety tonight. My daughter was there to give me an anniversary chip.
Oh, excellent. Well, congratulations, to commend you. And so cheers and toast to that. So tell us, that's a good segue right into the conversation. So would you say that attorneys have a high level of stress that potentially lead them to drinking?
Well, I think that, I can't speak to other professions, but I know in terms of what I do with trial work and a lot of other attorneys I know, it definitely, the pressure of the job definitely lends itself to wanting to let off some steam after hours and go have a couple of drinks. And it can, at least for me, it spiraled and got out of control pretty quickly. But yeah, I think it does. It's a high pressure job.
So Warren, before we get a little bit more in depth into the conversation, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a trial lawyer. I handle typically trucking cases and personal injury cases. I also do some construction work, and I've been practicing now for about 30 years, and I've been on my own for about 15 of those years.
All right, excellent. And you've represented me in a case, so thank you very much,
That's
sir.
right. It was my honor.
Yes. So
can I ask him a question?
Absolutely.
Attorney Sims, Mitchell Shelby here. Let me ask you a question, because you talked about the stress of being an attorney, and to the other attorneys also. Did it happen that you started drinking while being an attorney, or were you already drinking? Did this carry over from undergrad? Did it carry? Because I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and Women, Wine, and Songs.
I usually don't let Omegas on my show, but
I know I didn't want to say
Right.
that, but but the stress of undergrad and the stress of law school, was that something that carried over to your profession that you're in right now? Or did it just like, hey, I became an attorney and this is the way I relieve some of the stress?
Mitchell, that's a very good question, and I think it didn't just flip on a light switch when I passed the bar that all of a sudden I couldn't stop drinking when I wanted to. From the beginning, when I started drinking, I wanted to feel differently. I wanted to feel like I wasn't a misfit. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to feel like I was acceptable, and so it was always kind of with me. I never really. I guess there's an old saying that when I tried to control it, I didn't enjoy it. And when I enjoyed it, I didn't control it. So,
Okay.
But it's just as the pressures got more real and the stakes became higher, when somebody else's, life was in my care, or their future etc., then it became a lot more, the pressure became more pronounced, and the volatility of my drinking went up.
All right.
So let's go down the line and do a thunder lightning round. And we're just going to start with you, Attorney Griggs. Can the pressure of being an attorney lead one to drink?
I think the pressure of it being an attorney can lead one to drink. I made a choice once I went to law school that I really wasn't going to be, an avid drinker. I mean, I went to the University of Cincinnati, and in between classes, they would go to the bar Woody's, and people would get wasted. And so my thing was, we have important issues that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I handle the most serious of cases: murder, rape, child molestation. So I have to be clear-headed. So I make it a personal point not to drink to excess, and sometimes not to even drink. And then I handle DUIs. So I see the results of drinking to excess and the potential ramifications. So I try to keep it in context and keep it under control. And so most of the time I don't really drink.
All right. Attorney Gia.
I think that the pressures, they begin for many people in law school. And I think from my experience, and I've said this over the years, and probably these gentlemen will agree also, there's a lot about law school that prepares you substantively to practice. There's not a lot of attention given to people before they leave law school about how to manage being a lawyer. And it can be whether you're in private practice or even in some of the government or corporate settings that people go to, and they find that they're equipped intellectually, but they've been in an ivory tower. And what will come at them is being socialized into the world of work, which is just like everybody else. You've got that crazy coworker, you've got that unscrupulous boss, and that's not your soft skill set at that point. And you can't solve that by writing a brief. You've got to learn through it. You've got to get up and go put 12 people in the box, even though you just had an argument with your spouse. So there are a lot of things about making that transition, about bridging the gap, that can use some support, particularly, I think, even within our community of African American and other people of color, where many of us have not been exposed to the life of a professional beforehand. So we're really just getting started, but we don't know. And so I can't see how the combination of those things can really come down on you. I'm sort of like my colleague here. I tend not to. That's just a matter of choice. But there have certainly been social situations in terms of meeting clients in which early on I had to make some decisions about how I'm going to approach this. Someone's going to offer me a drink, or they're going to feel like I'm not a professional if I don't know how to sit down and meet over drinks.
Right. Interesting. So, Attorney Mitchell Albert, what's your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I'd like to second what both of the attorneys said, but I'd like to talk about a little bit when you talk about pressure and switches. And it seems like there's a line of demarcation between when you go to law school and when you become an attorney. And that is true. When you go to law school and when you're learning to be an attorney, it's all theoretical. You're in there studying, you're looking, and you're learning cases, and the multitude of cases is infinite, what you learn in law school. But when you get out here, an attorney like us, when we get out there and you with a client, you don't just read the case, you live the case. I wake up, I go to sleep thinking about the cases. I think about how it's going to impact and maybe resonate not just with the clients, but also with the client's family. So, and you do that, you multiply that by maybe 10, 1,500 cases that you've got, and you've got all these people, and you're looking at a 15-year-old kid who's looking at life or 3 or 4 life sentences, and you've got a mom, and you've got a system which is, I hate to say it, but stacked against him, okay? And you've got, because when you go in there and you with the judges, you got a prosecutor that's in the same building with the judge, but there's supposed to be some differences. And so you're looking at this justice system and you're telling this person, hey, trust me, trust the system. When you're working, you're balancing all these opportunities. So taking all that into account, for some times alcohol presents a relief to some people, okay? And what I like these, don't drink with clients. And typically in most functions, even when you're interacting with some of your peers, because there's a lot of alcohol out here. Whenever there's a social event, whenever there's something going on, there is a bar, and it's usually free and limitless alcohol. You have to have that self-discipline to do it. So, yeah, it's an issue, but you do have to have that self-discipline not to.
Attorney Sams, what's your thoughts on everything that you've heard your fellow peers say here inside the studio today?
Well, first thing I'll say is they're a lot more mature at their ages than I was. I can say that much. They've got a lot more mental discipline than I had. You know, the drinking response is an emotional response, and with the pressure that you find yourself in as a lawyer, especially when you're starting out, can be pretty high. And I think also when I was a younger lawyer, I also had the illusion that I could control the process more than I really could. And there's a certain point that I just have to do my part, but remember the ultimate outcome's in God's hands. And when I tried to overplay my role and do more than was my part, then I started owning more of the case than it really belonged to me, and the pressure became too great. But yeah, the drinking is an emotional response, and people who have more emotional maturity or just maybe don't respond to things quite the same way may not be as susceptible to drinking, or may have more discipline early on to go where I went, which was beyond the point of losing control. Once you lose that, you never really get it back. It's like a cucumber becomes a pickle; it doesn't become a cucumber again. And so, you know, I think the job can lend itself, but again, some people are more susceptible than others. But I thought everybody made some really good points.
So so you all have social jobs where you have to go out and wine, dine, drink to close the deals, things of that nature. How is it hard to not drink when out with clients or socializing in these atmospheres where, Mitchell, you mentioned earlier, as far as there's always a bar, it's free liquor. Are you being judged at all?
That's the point. So yeah, from the time you shake a client's hand, you're being judged. And
I would be judging you. If I'm going to hire you, I'm judging you.
Exactly.
I want to look at you, how you look, how you
from
dress.
the time you say, you want somebody. I've actually, unfortunately, been in a courtroom, and it was a Tuesday or Thursday, and there was an attorney that came in, and he reeked of alcohol. I mean, and it was quite evident that he had a problem, and nobody really addressed it, or anybody said anything to him. You know, I'd probably say, hey, are you all right? You know, something else somebody can help you with, something like that. But it's obvious. But you do your client an injustice. And you're supposed to, as an attorney, you should be analyzing everything. You need to be characterizing and positioning your client for if you have to. I'm a trial attorney like these. You need to get them prepped, and you're prepping them with every word about how they should be on the stand, how they should move, and you do that education by interacting and communication with them. And they start to mimic you, and they get to respect you. And when you get in there, or when you get to trial, when you have somebody sitting next to you and you want to ask them a question, they need to be able to respond immediately. You need to be sharp from the time you say hello.
Interesting. So, Gerald, what's your thoughts on this?
And my thoughts are, you know, we do some whining and dining, but, you know, we deal with real serious cases. So I can't imagine a time where I would neglect a person that's facing 3 life sentences plus 60 by being out drinking the night before. And we are being judged. But what my major concern is not only the client, but the community, the judge, the prosecutor, the kids that are watching at home. And then for some of us that are a little bit in the public eye, you can't have that. So I think that what needs to be, the conversation needs to occur is there's a difference between being a professional and just being social. You can be social, and I always have this dichotomy in my head when I go to events, bar events and everything, where we're with judges and prosecutors, and there's a lot of drinks out here, and I know everybody parked in the parking lot, and my question is, who's driving home and who's going to violate, you know, the DUI laws? That's my thought. And then who's going to end up on WSV because they had a DUI and potentially killed somebody?
Put that in the universe. Don't put that in
the
universe.
So my thing is, if we're going to be attorneys,
is real.
If we're going to be officers of the court, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Interesting. So one thing I will say is that there is a myth out there that to never trust a person who does not have a drink in their hand. So, you know, and that's what 100 Proof is all about, to confirm and dispel these myths. And so that's why we have these discussions. But, G, I want to ask you this question here. Annalise, How to Get Away with Murder. She's an attorney. Mm-hmm. She has an issue with alcohol, vodka in particular. Mm-hmm. Do you watch that show?
I do. I've seen it, yes.
Is that a real perception of potentially what attorneys go through and face?
Absolutely. As I was listening to the answers earlier, I think, what we're talking about here is our own personal experiences as well as the aspirational requirements, I should say, that we have as lawyers, as faces of the court in the community. But I've worked in a lot of different settings and represented a lot of clients and had a lot of great colleagues that I work with, some of which were amazing functional alcoholics. And so several that I can think of off the top of my head that you would not know that there was a problem, but people who function brilliantly, as many, of us are type A personalities, highly intellectual individuals and precise in what they did, but they were functioning alcoholics. And so it is quite possible that you can have someone that executes well, but they're battling their demons. And we see that. And that's, I think, one of the reasons several years ago that the state of Georgia decided to develop its own program, which allows attorneys who are having an issue to tap into resources, as well as for if you're an attorney and you have a concern about your colleague, you see someone showing up and they seem to be off of their game, to be able to refer them to that help. But that's real. That does happen. It's not just someone that's going to be sloppy drunk, forgetting what to say. It can be someone who's very competent in what they do, but they still have a problem to manage. And to your point, I wanted to address quickly, I have been in those settings in which if my client is a club owner or they are a promoter and that is the environment, or they have an unpopular cause, how do they view you? How do they judge you? Are you someone that's going to be able to work with me? Or are you someone that really you don't get me? And so how do you bridge that gap? That's a part of your soft skill set to be able to get them comfortable with, I can respect what you do and admire your prowess in business, but at the same time, I can bring me to it and not have to change.
So Warren, let's take it back to you real quick. When you were drinking as an attorney, did it impact your work? Like, and I don't know, but yeah, did it impact your work? I won't go much deeper than that.
Well, I think it definitely did. Now, I stopped drinking in '92 initially. Since '92, I've drank, I guess, about a total of 2 years of that time. And I don't have the DUIs. I didn't get fired. I didn't have that kind of stuff. It was just the way Gia would describe it is I had a problem I was trying to manage. I wasn't doing a great job of it, but I needed the help. And but the point is, what these lawyers have been saying is very true. I can hear the seriousness they take their profession.
Very serious.
And when you it's like when you see somebody playing tennis at a high level and they hit that ball with topspin. Every time they hit it, they slam that ball back. Well, if I'm hungover, I'm not hitting that topspin. I'm not giving my client
best.
Exactly.
Not your best.
And so part of my amends I had to make, at that point I was doing a lot of general litigation for some corporate clients, was to basically go back and refund some money. Because the amount of time I felt like I had put on their cases and billed, when I look back retrospectively, I thought, that wasn't fair. And they were all very appreciative, and I kept working with them. But, it's as far as the clients, I was very self-conscious at first that clients were going to think, what's the deal with this guy not drinking? And what I found out was that I was the one who thought about my drinking a lot more than anybody else is.
Interesting.
I was the one obsessing about how much I was drinking or not drinking. Everybody else was drinking. Normally, they have a glass of wine, they may not finish it, and they didn't really pay attention. They would keep offering me one, and I would keep taking club soda and like, oh, yeah, I forgot. They really didn't care, but they would have cared if they saw me getting inebriated. That would have bothered them, and it should have.
All right, so it's time for another sip break. So we are going back to Ginger Yums with my girl Angela. How are you? All right, excellent.
I'm going to be making my favorite, which is a ginger pineapple martini. And while I do that, I want to introduce my fantastic partner who started it all, who started Ginger Yums. This is Mr. Carl Walbrook. So he can talk to you about Dr. Walbrook. and he can talk to you guys about the benefits of ginger and just about ginger yums in general.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? Okay, well, first I'll start with the caveat. If one falls ill, you still need to dial 999. I'm not a doctor by profession. I'm not a doctor by profession. So here we go. So what we're doing, ginger yums. How did it start? I'm not sure if Angela has gone through it, but she was feeling too well. I decided to make some ginger for her, and she swiftly drank that down and was feeling a whole lot better.
I was.
What have you? So we'll take it from there. Ginger Yums has been going now for almost a month now, is it not? And we've been up and down in and around Atlanta, taking it to the people and the masses and what have you, and we're getting some fantastic feedback as to.
Tell about our first testimony. You can go on our website.
Yes.
And, we have testimonies on our website, and one of your colleagues had my favorite testimony.
Yes, one of my favorite. She was actually took the ginger yums into work and decided that I was going to drink it for a little beverage. And she was like, "What you drinking over there? You're rustling those ices and what have you." And so I said, "Okay, I'm doing fine." And she said, "No, you're doing fine, but what is it you're drinking?" So I was like, "Well, I'm drinking a little concoction." So I gave her some. And she said, "Oh, this is really good." I said, "You need to really think about doing this quite well." So I said, "Okay, we'll look at it." And I did, quite reluctantly, I said, "Okay, let me put something together and what have you." And I came back and spoke of Angela. I said, "Okay, we're going to do and get out there and promote the business." And here we are 4 weeks later. We got ginger yums.
But she had something was wrong with her knees or something. Something was wrong with her knees, and she said it made her feel better because ginger is an anti-inflammatory. And so it wasn't diagnosed in any way that she had this ailment, but she could just feel it. She had those aches and pains in her knees, and she literally said it made her feel better. And she emailed us a testimony about that. So we don't say we're a health drink because we're not, but we are a helpful drink. It made my stomach feel better. It's good for stomachs. It's good for migraines. It's good for inflammation. I did make some ginger pineapple yums, the original, for our non-drinkers this evening. Fantastic. It's one of my favorite drinks, just period. But one of my other favorite things is to make a martini. So we have upped it with the Ciroc pineapple. What you're having is a Ciroc pineapple ginger yum pineapple up.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, so we have the samples here for that, and that's what I've just made here. I put a little lemon sugar cane rim on it, so you have sugar cane rim, and the ginger yums. The original.
Non-alcoholic as well, don't we?
Yes. The ones in the cups are going to be the non-alcoholics.
Nicole, are you having a drink with us?
Yes, Nicole.
All right. So we can keep the camera over there, but we're going to be introducing Nicole right after this sip break. So, Angela, what's your thoughts of men drinking out of martini glasses? Because there's a myth out there and a stigma that men can't drink out of martini glasses.
I think that's foolish, and I think you should do what you feel. I think martini glasses are fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry. So I think it's silly. I think martini glasses are classic, and really, I think a martini can only be drunken out of a martini glass. In my opinion.
Where did this myth come from?
I don't know. People just like to make up stuff, and I think people, I don't know. They just, I don't know where it came from. I just think it's silly. I think you should do what you feel, and if you feel like drinking out of a nice glass that complements the beverage, as a martini glass complements a martini, then just do that, and just feel strong in yourself, and just do that.
Remind me to show you a text afterwards, because a woman was on a date just last night, and he was drinking out of a martini glass, and she sent me a picture of her sending the martini back to the bar and took pictures of them pouring it into a rocks glass.
Was that his request or her request?
It was her request, because in her mind, a man can't drink
That's just Atlanta foolishness,
right?
In my opinion.
Didn't James Bond drink out of a martini glass?
Exactly. So, Mr. Walbrook, what's your take on this conversation tonight?
Well, I've been listening attentively. I just think everything in moderation. That's what I say. Everything in moderation. There's nothing wrong in having a glass of wine or a beverage. I just think that you just need to be taken in moderation, and every man must know his limitations.
Right. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you all for being part of this sip break, and
Absolutely.
I'm enjoying the drink. I like it. Nicole, you like it? Have you tried it? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we're gonna look forward to the next drink, which is gonna be drink
Very
number
different.
4
It's gonna be
in
very
the
different.
finale. So be sure to stay tuned so you all can watch her. And at this point, I want to introduce my next co-host for the second part of the show. And by the way, we are in the midst of Causing a Stir segment. This is where you get to chime in on Facebook at Rolling Out Facebook page and ask your questions. So be sure to tune in, chime in, and tell us what you think. Ask your questions to these 4 wonderful, brilliant attorneys. But right now, I want to introduce the one and the only Nicole English.
Hey Jay, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for taking time to be here. Nicole
Thank you for
is
having me.
my pleasure. Nicole is also one of the hosts of Sucker Free. You just met Mitchell, and now it's Nicole. So tell us
Yes.
a little bit about yourself, Nicole.
So I'm from Atlanta. I'm a native, meaning I went to an Atlanta high school. Born at Georgia Baptist. I'm not a Grady baby. So I know they have a little, the Grady babies are like the vegans of Atlanta natives. But I'm from Atlanta. I've come and gone a few times. But basically I think I came back the first time just when I was in New York, and then a job had ended there, and they were paying everything. But since that division closed, I was like, I can't live in New York. I want to live, so
Right.
I'm going back home. So
I-
came back, then
I've
left
lived in
again.
New York, I know.
And then came back basically because my grandmother was getting sick. I had a house here and just needed to do some things in life.
So
that
tell
you
us a little
never
bit about
think
Sucker
you have
Free.
to do. So Sucker Free is a podcast we're going to be doing with myself, Rashad Ritchie, and Mitchell Shelby. And we actually did a morning show some years ago, all 3 of us. And when we heard about rolling out doing podcast, looking for people to do podcasts, I thought it'd be a great platform, especially since Rashad already writes for Rolling Out. And I was like, that'll be great for us to come back together, because people always write us like, we wish you all would get back together.
Right.
So it's just it's really good dynamics. We've got Rashad, who's like the mega intellectual. In fact, he's not here because he is getting his second PhD.
I'm trying to
sir,
I'm trying to
please.
get one.
Please, I just have my
I'm
little,
ABD,
I
so
just have my little bachelor's, and that's all I'm rolling with. I'm like,
It's
seriously,
hard
the
work.
second one. And then we have Mitchell, who is a black conservative and proud of it.
that's who you all just met.
Mitchell, yes. And then me, who's just opinionated about everything.
All right.
So we look forward to having great conversation.
And what's your thoughts on this conversation tonight?
It's very interesting. I didn't know the stats that as you presented about attorneys and the whole thing. But after I listened, I was like, that makes sense, because attorneys take on a lot. They're holding a lot of secrets. You know what I mean? They're trying to maneuver for a client. You never know how it can go in court. And I would guess I would be affected, especially if you lose a case that you really believe in.
Right.
And someone's freedom is in your hands. Like,
Right.
that's huge.
Yes.
And especially, you know, and I was glad to see Mr. Griggs here, Attorney Griggs here, because he does so much for the community. He's always out there. I mean, he's always posting about what he's doing. I'm like, this dude ever, but him and Rashad, they both be everywhere. But, you know, it's good to, you know that attorneys are fighting for us and doing what they can. So I can understand if I was an attorney taking a drink.
Right.
I would, seriously, you would need one.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So you mentioned stats and facts, and I think the producers are trying to tell you lift your microphone up a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit. The
I'll
cord
do
was
that.
getting stuck.
Oh, okay.
So you mentioned stats and facts.
Mhm.
I have great producers on this show. Most
Mhm.
are from Clark Atlanta University, so I want to thank my producers for doing all of the research. A national survey of approximately 15,000 currently employed attorneys reveals that between 21% and 36% drink at levels consistent with an alcohol use disorder. Gia, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm not surprised by it. I think, we've talked a lot about what it means to practice law from the solo practitioner or private law firm. But there's a whole body of attorneys that are out practicing in settings in government, which has its own unique type stress to, or dealing with a lot of confidential matters and things that are very political in nature. and they're in a position in the food chain where they're essentially having to do what they're asked to do, whereas in private practice, many times you've got a little bit more latitude around whether or not you're going to take on a particular case or take on a particular cause. But when you're working for someone else, you may find yourself having to make some very difficult ethical considerations that kind of bump right up against your paycheck.
So, Gia, you mentioned that was so key when working for someone else, because Lady is the producer of this show, and one of the things that she discovered was when attorneys work for someone else, they drink more versus when they drink for themselves. So Warren, let's take that back to you. What's your thoughts on hearing that? Can working for someone else cause you to drink more?
I don't think, I had to let go of the thought that the external source was the cause of my drinking. It was the excuse for my drinking. Once there's a difference between somebody who has already become an alcoholic and someone who isn't. Someone who has already become an alcoholic, they're going to drink because they've got the disease, okay? But before someone passes that point of losing control, they may be more susceptible to increased stress, and if they're seeking a way to fix that stress with alcohol, yes. If they find more stress working for someone else, then that might be a stressor for them. But again, for me, my answer may be a little different than somebody else, because I don't have the luxury of saying, if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have taken a drink. My life depends on me saying, no matter what, I'm not taking a drink.
Interesting. So we are in the Cause and the Stir segment. This is where you get to chime in and tell us what you think. And so we want to acknowledge those that are out there watching. We have Sharon Honoré. She said, my favorite attorney. One of y'all know Sharon?
Yes, that would be Dr. Sharon Honoré. And when you said ABD, she immediately came to mind. I know all but dissertation. I know exactly what that stands for. Congratulations to you in endeavoring that. I want to support that.
I need a lot more support to finish the rest of it.
It's all worth it. I'm telling you, Dr. Honoré will tell you it is all worth it.
All right, and we want to say hi to Justice Frederick, Janine Lindsay Robinson, Crystal Anderson. She says, the best attorney in the world, Gia Compton. All right. Bridget Barnes Victorian gives us a thumbs up. Sharon Honoré says Mitchell Albert the fourth. Are you the fourth?
I'm the
Mitchell?
third.
The third?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe she's sipping at home. She put in an extra eye for you. Queen Teddy Anderson gives us a thumbs up. Tracy Moore says Mitchell Albert the third. All right. Millicent Flintroy gives us a thumbs up. Sheila Noley Bird. She says, my comment is about Gerald Griggs. I met him 16 years ago when he was a young public defender in Rockdale County. We don't prep these questions. I'm like, do I need to keep on reading?
It's good. I just read it before you. It's good.
Is she about to tell us what you did 16 years ago?
Wow.
She said, I met him 16 years ago when he was a young public defender in Rockdale County and defended my 18-year-old son who was being railroaded due to a Caucasian female lied about her age, and the judge wanted to make an example out of him. I have been following his career since, and he has always been beyond professional, and I will always be grateful for him being a justice fighter for the black community. So let's take a pause right there. Seeing that you're a justice fighter, a few people have already mentioned that on the show today. Is that enough pressure, not necessarily to make you drink, but to make a reasonable person, the most common person, go and take the drink because the pressure of how society is treating a particular mankind?
Yeah, I think it would be. And I mean, I'm not going to, lie to people and say I don't have stresses, I don't have pressure. But what I typically do is, I do CrossFit. So, a lot of attorneys are type A personalities. They have to have an outlet. And I knew that I was that type of individual. So when I'm not fighting for justice, I'm probably lifting some really heavy weight. And it frees my mind. You know, a lot of people say those endorphins you release when you're working out are the same as what you would get from any type of, you know, alcohol or narcotic or things like that. So I'm not saying that, you know, attorneys don't deal with stress. It's just how you deal with the stress and how you you absorb the issues. We deal with a lot. Let's be real. We deal with a lot, whether it's in the courtroom dealing with, you know, double and triple life issues, or whether it's dealing with politics, or whether it's just dealing with the issues happening in the African American and the minority community. So big shout out to her. I'm glad to see she's still following, and hopefully I'm still doing everything I did in the past and doing more, because we have to help the community.
So here's another question that we have on Facebook. Attorneys in the first 10 years of their practice reported experiencing the highest rate of problematic use at 28.9%, followed by attorneys practicing for 11 to 20 years, indicates 20.6%. So it's almost an 8 to 9% increase for people in the first 10 years. So Mitchell, what's your thoughts on this question?
Thanks for revisiting, Jade. I'd like to give a shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. I know the other Mitchell said something about Omega Psi Phi.
Yes.
Great.
All right. I didn't know I had this many alphas.
Great show.
You know you're in the presence of greatness when you got three of us.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
I knew it was cold in here.
Yeah, ice.
Mitchell's over there throwing up right now.
He can thank us later for making the way. But I would like to just kind of tweak the conversation a little bit and point out there's been a lot of conversation about use, and then we also have its position against alcoholism, okay? And I would like to kind of talk about that. I know they talk about a lot of use, and there's a level that certain people can drink and not be alcoholic. So I think that everybody that's an attorney that drinks is not necessarily an alcoholic.
Definitely.
Now, okay, but maybe they're more inclined to drink because of the social aspect of it, and it's the easiest release. Like Brother Griggs said, working out, you have to find another outlet other than alcohol if you want to be successful. I would like to see, and I'll do my own research, the success level of those people that drink and continue to drink and that continue to be attorneys. I think that number would probably go down. Their alcohol consumption may go up, but their practice probably would go down. So that's my take on those things.
Nicole, what's your thoughts on everything you're hearing?
I was thinking about Griggs and everything he did, and I keep referring to him just because I know his career. I know what he does and everything. And just like I said before, I just concede taking a drink, but I like the fact that he said CrossFit, because that's a hard workout. Anybody knows like seriously, and you've got to find something to get that stress off of you. And I think that's a good way to do it. Besides drinking, not that drinking is a good way, but you know what I mean? For an alternative to that,
right.
You definitely got to keep exercising and moving, especially when you have a schedule such as his, because he's always here, there, everywhere, doing something. And I like the idea of exercising to get it, get that stress off of you so it doesn't sit on you and cause other diseases that come along with stress. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I like the idea of that.
Absolutely. So we are in the midst of our Cause and the Stir segment, and we're about to be closing out. I'm not sure how much time we have left in this segment, but we want to go back and acknowledge people in our social media. And so Valerie Glover, she says, Mitchell, you got a lot of people watching tonight.
Thank you.
We have Rashad Thompson. He says, if you don't know what is truly good for you, then when it comes down to it, easing your mind with a drink will feel just as good as a lap in the pool or throwing darts. Gia, you want to take that one? So he's saying there's nothing wrong with having a drink.
Yeah, I think we maybe we're at a good point to just bring it back to the head. I think ultimately there are pressures that just come with living here in America, and many of us are not prepared to deal with that before we layer on complicated jobs like being lawyers and doctors and whatever it is that we're forging through in this life. balance is important. It's again, I think it's certainly something that was lacking in terms of a legal education, and having exercise or hobbies or time with family and friends, whatever it is that helps you to unwind, is something that we just simply have not been socialized here as bringing the same weight of importance to that as going on the grind. And so whatever it is that helps you to bridge that gap, I think that's the thing that you pursue. If you enjoy drinking, and if that's what you enjoy, I don't see that there's anything wrong with that. But in all things that we do, there is moderation. There is a requirement for an understanding of consequences. And then I think for our colleague on the phone, also getting to know yourself, because the drink for me is a different drink for him.
Exactly.
Right.
And counseling, if you need to take that route to talk to somebody.
Sure, absolutely.
Definitely.
And so that's a good segue. So Warren, let's go back to you on the phone line. Was it easy for you to reach out and ask for help, to get help?
No.
Why?
It was not. Because addiction is the only disease that tells you you don't have it. It's a brain disease, and you get invested in believing that whatever that substance is you're relying on, whether it's alcohol is just the most accessible, okay? But there's plenty of substances out there, and when you become convinced that that substance is necessary for you to face life on a daily basis, to have to admit that it becomes your best friend and worst enemy. And it wasn't until I saw the possibility of losing my relationship with my children, my marriage, my work, and dying from it that I was able to finally say, I need help.
Interesting.
And I would think it's harder for someone as an attorney. People think you have it all together because of that career. You know what I mean? So then you've got to admit to somebody, whoever, that you may not. You know what I mean? You've done this schooling. They think we think of every attorney as living this rich, lavish life. Seriously, we do. I do. You know, so they should possibly have it together. So I would guess trying to reach out for help is a hard thing. I would think. So what made you realize, or you come to the point where you just knew you had to talk to somebody to get some type of help?
I realized I was going to die from it. And I did. And I had gone to see a professional who told me I needed to go to treatment, and I was making up all these excuses for it. And I mean, it was, for me, it was a very white light experience. I prayed about it before I went to bed and asked for a sign. And when I woke up, there were two lawyers I knew who said, we're taking you to treatment. And they were the two people that I had told that professional earlier that day. I said, there's only two people who can tell me to go to treatment, and you ain't one of them. And I never told anybody who they were. And to me, that was an answered prayer. And I wasn't going to turn down, it was a burning bush in my life. I wasn't going to turn it down.
Right. Interesting. So we are in the midst of our On Fire segment. And so this topic has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, but we acknowledge what's going on in the world. And we've lost a great one, Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. So we just want to do a thunder round. Tell us quickly what you think about her loss or what she meant to you.
I mean, wow, I can just remember riding in my parents' car and just listening to Aretha. The voice was just, majestic. We've lost a truly great singer, but more importantly, a champion for civil rights. So my heart goes out to her family. My prayers go to her family, and she was great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's a similar memories come to mind of visualizing women standing around in the kitchen and cooking or sitting around and sharing, and they have Aretha playing in the background, and she's expressing and articulating their soul, the feelings that they are not able to put into words. And, it's just a quiet understanding that she was able to bring to the room, just calming it with her voice. And also, I think, somewhat unsung, and hopefully more sung now, around her contributions and her dedication to the rise of Black people in America.
Mitchell?
She was a room changer. Her voice came on, R-E-S-P-E-C. What? Aretha came on. Everybody changed. Everybody, whatever you were doing, whatever you were thinking, whenever that voice came, you're like, wait a minute. She would take you out. And she'd walk in the room, this grand lady, she dressed the way she did. She was like, wait, she commanded respect. Very inspirational. It's a great loss, and I think it's time for celebrating her life.
All right, Nicole, any thoughts?
Just childhood. I just, if you, your mama, your aunts. My mom always had sisters. I grew up with a mother who got along with women, so sister friends were always there. And after she died, they were there for me. So it's just remembering those women, remembering the camaraderie, remembering Aretha, especially anything before the 80s. That's just gold to me, especially the gospel albums, all of that. So yeah, all of that.
And so Warren, we know white folks like Aretha Franklin as well. So tell us what she meant to you and the white folks in the world.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing she did bring was a feel for the gospel. Never left her voice. Gospel music was always in her voice, and it brought that sense of worship that goes with that music came into her popular music as well. And people, that's what transcended racial boundaries, social boundaries. And another thing is just think about culturally. A woman, a Black woman at that time singing a song Respect. That was a statement. That was a major cultural statement. And she did it with such class and poise that people almost didn't accept it without even understanding what a great statement it was. She was just a huge icon.
And see, Warren, they were laughing when I introduced you and made that statement because you had them all fooled because you a soul brother. So they could have sworn they just knew you were Black. So I threw that out there. They were a little shocked, but. We at this point in time, we are going to do another sip break, and we're going to bring Angela back for some final words and with the final cocktail. So what do we have, Angela?
Wow, tonight for the wrap up, we have our Ginger Yums Sorrel. And I don't know if you know anything about sorrel. I wish my partner was in here. It's actually from the West Indies. So this is a Jamaican original. His father is Jamaican, and so. I absolutely love this drink and the benefits that come along with it. Lowering your blood pressure, giving you energy. Gosh, the list is so long with this particular product. Oh, please share it. The ones with the blue have are upped, so we can give those to the people at the end. But once again, the sorrel, it is made from a hibiscus flower. Of course, we put the ginger yum in it, so you're going to have that ginger in there as well. Energy and digestion. That's once again important. Once again, if you've never tried sorrel, I highly encourage you guys to go on our website and try ours. But it's absolutely amazing. It's very different. Right? It is. It's an hibiscus flower.
That's really
amazing.
Good.
It's very different from all of the other drinks, right? And so what we've upped yours with, Jay Wesley, is with the Ray and Nephew, which is a traditional Jamaican rum.
Absolutely.
And so
I love it.
he doesn't let me to put any other rum in it but Ray and Nephew. So.
And where can people find you all?
You can find us online at www.gingeryums.com. Please follow us on Instagram. I try to keep that kind of active. And then on Facebook. So it's just Ginger Yums. We're right here in Atlanta. We do deliver in Atlanta to, like I said, downtown, Midtown, Buckhead area. But if you call, email us, we can definitely make arrangements. And we'll be at a festival this weekend. So check us out. We'll be at the Indie Festival on Saturday at Woodrow. So
all right.
Come on out and see us. We'll be set up. We have jars that we sell them like this in the jar. So this is our quart. And it's only $12. So come out, mix it up with your drinks, and then we have the smaller jars that we sell as well for $6 and $7.
All right.
So.
Well, thank you so much for being part of this. We're going to do a quick thunder lightning round. If people can we're going to go around the table, starting with you, Mitchell. Tell people where they can find you and one final quick takeaway that you want them to leave with this conversation.
Great. First of all, I'd also like to say thank you so much for having me on the show, Jay Wesley. It's been
My
a pleasure,
pleasure.
and I'd love to come back any other time you'd like me to. My office is located on Cumberland Boulevard. I service the Atlanta metro area. That's Fulton County, Gwinnett, Cobb, Douglasville area. As I said before, malicious prosecution, personal injury, and criminal defense. If you got anything from out of this, I hope that you got that there are attorneys that take you and your situations very serious. We pride ourselves on representing you, and it is a privilege and an honor to represent any client that I have.
All right, Gia.
Thank you for having me here. This is a wonderful dialogue that we were able to share, and I was enriched by being here with these brothers in particular. My takeaway is that we all have a desire for success. Let your goal for success be defined by you. Don't chase anything. Don't put extra pressures on yourself. Don't seek out arbitrary goals and milestones set by someone else that drive you so far away from yourself that you don't pay attention to what's actually going on with yourself. And that's across the board. That's not just attorneys, that's everybody. There's enough just kind of getting through this life and doing it proudly. And as for me, I have an office in Atlanta, one in New York, and soon, hopefully, one in Dubai. I love independent filmmakers. I love helping people to get to the door that don't normally get to the door. And I love telling the stories that don't normally get told.
All right. And Warren, to the phone line, to you, tell us your final takeaway that you want people to leave with and where people can find you.
Well, they can find me at the Sam's Law Firm at www.samslaw.net. But I would just say for the final takeaway is if there's somebody out there who's suffering tonight and they've had enough, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, give me a call. I can put them in touch with somebody who can help. And that there is a way out and they don't have to feel this way anymore. Thank you for letting me be on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks for representing me in the past. Attorney Griggs, my frat brother.
Brother, it was great being on the show with you. Thank you to Rolling Out. Thank you to you for having me. The takeaway I would say is just don't ever forget that the impossible is always possible if you put one foot in front of the other and make that dream happen for everybody. You can reach me on all social media at Attorney Griggs, # The Justice Fighter. I'll be here. I'll be in the community. I'll be at CrossFit, and I'll be back in the community. So, listen, you can find an alternative to drinking if you have a problem. But if you don't have a problem, there's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure you have a designated driver or you call Attorney Griggs when you get that DUI. So look forward to being back on the show.
All right. Thank you, brother. And Nicole, my co-host for the night.
Yes, thank you for having us. First of all, giving a shout out to Bianca Shelby, who's in the chat room. That's Mitchell's wife.
Okay.
So she's been watching the show too, and glad to see her.
Thank you for watching.
But thank you for having us. I'm Nicole English. I'll be a part of Sucker Free Podcast. We start September 4th at 2:30. It'll be myself, Rashad Ritchie, and Mitchell Shelby. So it'll be great conversation, and we appreciate you, Jay, having us. We have to return the favor. You have to join us for our show.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can reach me on Facebook. I'm at Nicole English. Or on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Atlanta Sister. That's SISTAH. And Atlanta Sister on Facebook.
All right, excellent. And I want to thank all of you for watching and tuning in every single Tuesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on rollingout.com. Continue to watch every single week. Next week is National Wine Day, so we're talking about cocktails and wine. Do you know how to sip wine, pair your wine? Be sure to tune in, and it's red wine. So it's National Red Wine next Tuesday, so be sure to tune in. Until next time, we'll see you then.